Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make $100,000 selling Pokemon cards. Not clickbait whatsoever, it's just math. I say it all the time, but it's just math. A lot of people don't like math. Spreadsheets make it easy, I promise you. So I'm going to show you a spreadsheet breaking down the core components that go into selling a card and just extrapolating out what it takes to buy, grade, sell one card, profit per item, extended across how many items you can do in a set period of time. So without any further delay, let's just get into it. How many hours are you going to be doing this? I'm full-time. Very approximately, I work a full-time job. I work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 50 weeks a year. Couple weeks vacation the boss lets me have. But put in your own numbers. I mean, whether you're side hustling this, whether you're doing it full-time, how much you're going to make in a year, how much you're going to make in some unit of time depends on how many hours you're working per unit of time. So yeah, start there. This one I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you at once, and I realize that. So this video, I guess I should say that this video is kind of sponsored by the Pokenomics Patreon, and I will address that further later. I will bring that more front and center in the screen and talk about it. But this is an actual data set that I used in last month's presentation for July. So every month we have a Zoom call, 2 to 3 hours, depending on the month. But either Jake, myself, or some other person from the industry, from the space, will lead it. And yeah, so for July of 2023, I stepped through actual data from cards that I bought. Some people, no one can make X amount of money per year. Show us the data, show us how you did it. Well, I'm not going to show you it all here. I mean, it was an hour presentation showing how I source on, what website I source on, showing you literally. I in an hour, I showed you the way that I bought the cards, adding them to the cart. I didn't check out like live. I did that afterwards. But I showed people step by step how I sourced the given card. Here are some numbers for that card. No surprise, it's this card. But anyways, it's this card. Approximately. These numbers were taken a few weeks ago. There's plus or minus here. There's plus or minus in a lot of this. But $200 PSA 10, $100 PSA 9, $75 PSA 8. Raw near mint at the time, $84. Do the math. It's simple math. Green sells. So the way that I did it, this spreadsheet is actually available for download. If you join the Patreon, $10 a month, you get access to the whole backlog of all the Zoom calls. You get monthly office hour with Jake and myself separately. One hour voice chat in Discord once a week with each of us. Among all the backlog of all that content, we don't record the office hours though. That's the only thing we don't record. And then all these spreadsheets to download and use at your leisure. Put in your own numbers. So continuing on, rounding up the eBay fee, rounding up what I pay for shipping, rounding up what I pay for grading. Factored into this shipping, you can kind of count on it being the graded card sleeve, the cardboard insert that I use, the padded envelopes and all that. So yeah, you just do the math. I mean, I think anyone, this is like probably 5th or 6th grade math just being applied in spreadsheet form. This is probably something that you could do by 8th, 9th, 10th grade if you have a decent grasp. I mean, if not significantly earlier. It's just addition, subtraction, maybe a little bit of multiplication and division. But yeah, actual data of me buying those cards. Not willy-nilly, like I have a very specific method for how I source certain types of cards. And again, I'm not going to get into that here. I have an hour-long video behind the paywall if you want to get into that. But anyways, 48% of the cards that I bought turned out to be PSA 10s. 27% turned out to be PSA 9s. 25% I deemed not gradable. And what that amounts to, on a 10 you're making $90, on a 9 you're losing $2, on an 8 you're losing $25, and on a near mint card you're losing 18. Do the math. It's a nice fancy sum product. It's just a quick way to say half the time you're making $90. So overall that averages out to me. That's like an EV contribution of about $45 per, and then you go backwards from there. So the ultimate EV of making that one play was $38 per card purchased in my way. Not just blindly, willy-nilly buying and getting 80% damaged cards, this or that. Like, the card that you pick, the way that you source it is very important, and I just need to stress that disclaimer. But continuing ahead, again, if you want further disclaimers in the actual method, check out the link below to the Patreon. Continuing on, though, and carrying that over. I will also, this was one specific example. One card, one era in time. This was a 3 or 4 month span that I tracked this information. And what it amounted to was this 38.29. Once we're done going through with 38.29 and figuring out how much profit per hour I was able to make with those cards and what annual salary that would lead to if I could do 2,000 hours of that one card. One thing that I will cover here, liquidity matters, and you will be competing against yourself when you buy multiple quantity of a same card. So sell-through rate, liquidity, all those things are massive considerations. Just because you might be able to, in small spurts, make $50, $100, $500 an hour doesn't mean, $500 an hour across 2,000 hours works out to $1 million a year. I'm not trying to say you can make $1 million a year. In the current market, with the current plays that are out there, I think anyone doing this full-time who has a lot of experience, has a lot of knowledge, and has a lot of grind in them. I'm that grind set mindset. If you're able to put in the time, have the experience, and learn as you go, and continue adapting to the market. There's a lot of people today making 50,000, 100,000 or more in this current market. A lot of margins to be had out there. And this is primarily talking, again, buying, raw, grading, flipping. So let's just go down through. I have a pretty good handle. I've talked to so many people who do this part-time, full-time. They have no concept of how long it takes them to do certain tasks that are pivotal, that are crucial to this business. I don't know how you don't know those things. I've always paid attention. They vary from time to time, depending on what, like you can see right here I have down at the bottom. Say this was a 1Z, 2Z graded card. Say this was a card that I go on eBay, manually one at a time and just buy them. Celebrations Charizard is not that. I was buying those by the dozens. I couldn't buy 1,000 of them on TCG Player in any one day, but I was doing buys from anywhere from 10 copies to 40 copies at a time. Days in between, weeks in between, months in between, because again, one given card, one given play only has a finite amount of space available for it. So yeah, let's just go. To source a card, let's be pessimistic. Let's say that we're doing this is what we used for the Celebrations Charizard. Let's be conservative. Like, if I knew that I was buying this card, I could go to TCG Player and I could buy 10 in under 10 minutes. So a minute per card is like very conservative for that style play of just buying deep quantity of one given card. Let's be conservative though. Let's be a little bit pessimistic. You can I guess I should just hide these numbers till I'm done, because it's a little bit silly to show them when they're not factoring in everything. So let's say 1 minute a card would be if I was buying multi-quantity. Let's say I'm browsing eBay, page by page, line by line, going in, looking at the front and the back. I think really conservatively on a card like this, you should be able to source 10 an hour. Let's say it's taking you 6 minutes an item. You're really getting in deep. You're spending an hour and you're only buying like the cream of the crop. You're only buying 10 cards an hour. So let's go there. When you get them in, you're getting out your loop. You're getting out your high intensity light. I don't use a loop. I don't use a magnifying glass. I do raw, naked eye. And I have good lighting. I use my good lighting. But let's say you're looking at every card for a minute. You're looking at cards for 10 times as long as PSA is. Maybe not that long, but maybe twice as long as PSA is, 4 times as long as PSA is. You got to grade it, right? So once you're done conditioning it, you got to put it in your penny sleeve, you got to put it in your card saver. You've got to go to PSA and you've got to type it in. I've done 100 card entries, 100 card subs, where every card was different sets, different languages, all different kinds of things. I can do 100 card submission of completely different items well under an hour. So let's be very pessimistic. Let's say it takes me 50 minutes. Let's say it's half a minute per card. If you're doing these cards, if you're doing Nagaba Eevees that you're buying hundreds at a time, if you're doing Celebration Charizard, you're buying dozens at a time, 30 seconds per item to submit it is on the very, very high side. That's counting packaging it up and all that too. But yeah, again, let's be pessimistic. I do two cards a minute, front and back. I still take photos. A lot of people use scans. Maybe people do it slower. Maybe people do it faster. I don't really know. but this is like a pretty firm one for me. One great thing, again, I have a stack of 20 Nagaba Leafeon. This could be as low as 6 seconds an item, because I take front only of one card, and then I might sell 100 cards through that listing. So depending on the card, I might put 0.1 there. Literally, I mean, that would be 600 items an hour. That would be 10 seconds per item. So yeah, that would be appropriate for certain items though. When you do multi quantity, I mean, there are some listings that I have that I intend to sell hundreds through eventually. Listing the item, doing a buy it now, researching the price, looking at last sold, low list. Let's say 2 minutes an item. 1 minute is more typically what I use. If you're doing, again, onesie twosie, a PSA 7 base set first edition holo to a PSA 10 ultra modern Japanese promo, it's more item specifics you have to change. So let's be really conservative. Let's say it takes 2 minutes to do all that. You've got to change the title. You've got to change a few. I mean, let's say 3 minutes. Let's be really conservative. Fulfilling an order. 2 minutes is my default. If it's all the same cards and I'm going to the same bin and plucking, it could be as low as 1 minute per. Let's be a little bit conservative and say 2 minutes per. So customer service, most sales on eBay, I talk to no one. I do no customer service whatsoever. Let's say a minute per item. If you are getting a minute worth of customer service per item on average across your whole eBay store, I think you're doing something wrong. I think you're not putting enough information in there. Like, I don't know what's leading to that. 95% of my sales, I don't talk to the buyer whatsoever. They buy it, I ship it, it's over and done with. End of transaction. So again, very conservative numbers. And you might think this number's crazy. Go watch my video on how I actually did it. That was actual data. I bought 100 Celebration Charizards across a few months, graded them. The actual numbers went into finding this out right here. So yeah, say you don't like that. I mean, we'll get to that in a minute, but say you don't like that, we can change that number. I'm making $164 an hour with these conservative estimates. If I had to be really serious about it, if I had to be like what it actually took me for Celebration Charizard in particular, sourcing was under a minute each. Again, I could source 10 in 10 minutes easily. I could have them checked out on TCG Player. Conditioning and cards, I mean, I might look at a card for 30 seconds tops. Grading submission, it's more like, yeah, it's more like a quarter of a minute. I mean, 15 seconds per card. I can easily do. I mean, I've had submissions where I've done 300 cards in an hour. That would be 5 cards a minute. So this is like 4 cards a minute. When you have 50 of one card, 50 of the next card, 50 of the next card, you can do a 300 card sub sometime in 10-15 minutes. So again, if you want to subscribe to the Patreon, you can download this. You can put your own numbers in it. If you don't want to subscribe to the Patreon, that's fine too. I think this video is telling you a lot of information for free. This is simple math. You can replicate this. If you don't want to go and pay $10 to download this and put your own information in, open up a spreadsheet and just generate it. Watch this video, slow it down, do it at 0.5x speed, follow along, and just do the math. Just please, people, do the math. Time yourself. When you go and are shipping 10 orders, how long does it take you? When you're photographing 50 cards, how long does it take you? Get an idea. This is what is important. This is the nuts and bolts. This is the foundation for learning how much money, how sustainable, how profitable, how reasonable is it that you do this full time? Or yeah, I think this is all crucial stuff that a lot of people just overlook. I'll leave 2 per minute, 0.5 minutes per for photos, because that's what I'm actually at. Listing, I mean, I'll go down to 2 to be fairly conservative. It's more like 1.5 for a Celebration Charizard style card, because I don't do multi quantity when it is like a $200 card. As you can see here, the $102 PSA 9 though, I have one listing that I've sold like 30 or 40 PSA 9s through. So that is one listing, one time that I just re-up the quantity for. To be fair, like my minutes per listing on my PSA 9 is like, I mean, I've sold 40 through one listing that took me 2 minutes to make. So work that math out. 2 minutes per listing is very conservative. Let me go 1. Let me go 1, because 2 minutes per listing is extremely conservative. Fulfillment, again, 2. Customer service, I'm going to go down to 0.1. That's like my default thing that I use. That's saying that on an average item that I sell, the customer service time is about 0.1 minutes, which is, yeah, I mean, that is 6 seconds. When you do get one out of 20 sales that I make, I get one. It might take a minute or 2. So I think that's a pretty fair. Again, if you don't think it's fair, if you don't like it, if I can cut my sourcing time in half, you're seeing we're approaching $500 an hour, $1 million a year. This video was not titled how to make $1 million a year in Pokemon. This video was 100,000, I think is reasonable. Again, say that's only one card. That's not always going to be there. The margin's going to go away. Can you make $10 an item? Can you make $5 an item? Literally just do the math. If you can make $5 an item, and note, money is at risk. Prices of cards can go down. Grading turnaround takes 3 months. But even if you don't want to look at Celebration Charizard, even if you want to, like, whatever the card is, you can download this, you can put your own numbers in, and you can just do the math. Are you gonna make $2 an item? Well, if you're doing 13 items an hour, 12 and a half items an hour, and you're making $2 an item, you're making $25 an hour. You have to take into account all the capital that's at risk. You have to take into account opportunity cost. Are you doing this on credit cards? Are you paying 30% interest? If and when it goes bust, how big is it gonna bust? How big will the failure be? Consider all these things, all those disclaimers, all those disclaimer Dan chiming in that people don't want to hear about. But yeah, I mean, I just showed you the math behind making anywhere from $1 million a year down to $50,000 a year, $25 an hour. It's just math. Go through your process, and this works for. I'm looking at graded. 95% of what I sell is graded. Maybe you can sign cards for friends instead of doing average profit per item. You do average sale price and you do average margin. So say you're selling for a 20% consigning fee and your fees are 13-14% on average. Say you're netting a 6% over what the eBay fees are. Do the math. Average sale price, average net profit per item percentage wise, and then just extrapolate it out. If you can process 10 items an hour, just do the math. It all carries out and you can sort it out. So I did want to just go back to the sponsor of the video. So yeah, Pokenomics Patreon. There's a couple hundred of us in there. 273 as of right now. 72 posts of a backlog. $10 a month. You unlock all these old posts. So yeah, Zoom meetings, 2 to 3 hours once a month. I lead one. I led July. Jake is leading August. This coming weekend. So if you subscribe now, you will be getting the first Zoom monthly meeting on August 27th that Jake will lead. And then next month in September, we will have a special guest. And then we alternate Jake, myself, special guest, Jake, myself, special guest. So once a quarter, you're getting me. Once a quarter, you're getting Jake. Once a quarter, you're getting someone else. But yeah, that's there. I do have an evil paywall. If you are interested, become a patron today. Discord, all the backlog of these type of calculation files, all the backlog of the content. We do not record the weekly Discord calls. So this month I've been doing my Discord call Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Sometimes I'm doing 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It varies. Every few months I change it up so that I can try to be EU friendly for a couple months, be US friendly a couple months, be 9 to 5er friendly. I try to really mix it up, and Jake does as well. So yeah, those are all the benefits. If you're interested, this is some of the math. Patreon or not, if you're doing this full time and you're not tracking, like, how many cards can you sell an hour? How much? And then another thing, like, what's your actual break even? One thing you can use with this, like, say you're selling an item. I mean, this is tied in with the whole EV calculation, but say you're selling an item for $20. Well, let's take away that. A $20 sale, you're netting 12. Well, that doesn't work out too well when the grading fee, basically it would be a different spreadsheet, and I do have other spreadsheets that are shared with the patrons, and I'm going to continue adding more and more as time goes on. But yeah, like, what's your break-even cost? When grading is 17 and shipping is 5 and your eBay fee is 15%, how much money do you need to sell a slab for to literally just net nothing? These are all important, and I think that there's a lot of people that just have no grasp. I think a lot of people just wing it, and when times are good and margins are high and the market is doing really well, like as I would say today, you can kind of like wing it and get by. But if and when the time ever comes that margins go away, if liquidity dies, if we see a downturn in the hobby. I think just knowing those core numbers that are instrumental to your business is very, very wise to know. And yeah, gonna keep it under 20 minutes. That's all I have for today. I appreciate everyone watching. I will catch you all later.